And here we go. And what a joy to be on these live programs. I am learning a lot. I was actually outside probably 7 minutes ago walking my dog. For those of you who know, Gizmo and I are out cruising around. I get a notice on my phone like, oh, you're from Facebook, thankfully, of like, oh, your broadcast starts in 8 minutes. I'm like, oh boy, hightailing it up. We're inside. We're ready to go. And I'm super excited to talk about the Stronger Together experience with a new author who I just had a chance to meet recently a few weeks ago, and have seen some great things that he's been putting out there. And I can't wait for him to share those with you. And talking about sharing, I want to thank our sponsors, Bulb and Swivel, for continuing to support the Stronger Together experience and hearing from educators to support your growth and mine as well throughout this experience. So I had this great thing planned to introduce our next guest, but one of the things I've learned, and as I continue to evolve, is that I can say some great things about people, but I love to hear them introduce themselves because it's more authentic and I get to learn what's important to them. So I'm going to welcome our next guest in and have you introduce yourself. Hey, it's great to see you, meet you. This is our second time connecting online in about 2 weeks.
Hey, man. Good morning. I'm happy and excited to be here. So I'm Libo, Valencia. I am a math teacher in New York. I have been teaching high school mathematics for the past 13 years. I'm currently teaching at Horace Greeley High School. I also teach at Lehman College and Mercy College. I will say that I'm passionate about mathematics. I'm passionate about teaching mathematics, and I'm also passionate about making it as engaging and fun as possible for my students.
Awesome. So one of the things you're going to learn about this lane of education and on podcasts and events, I want you to repeat a couple of that, because even I, who like to keep up quick, you are a fast talker, man. You're one of the fastest talkers.
Yes.
I remember I was talking with you and Brian Aspinall and Daphne, and I think we fit in a 5-hour meeting in about 45 minutes with all of your passion and excitement. So tell us again where you're teaching and what state is that in? I know that, but I don't think our listeners know.
Sure, yes. I'm sorry. You know what? Like, I'm glad you told me, because I get excited. And when I get excited, I just keep going. So I've been teaching mathematics for the past 13 years. I live in New York. I teach at Horace Greeley High School in Chappaqua. I also teach at Lehman College and also at Mercy College.
That's awesome.
What I shared was that I'm very passionate about mathematics. I'm also very passionate about teaching mathematics and making it as fun and engaging as I can for my students.
Awesome. And so where did that passion come from? Like, I mean, I'm just going to speak for myself. Math wasn't something I'm like, the passion that you display right now is like nothing I can imagine for a math problem. But that's me. Tell us what got you passionate about mathematics.
So I think that my passion for math started very early. Growing up in Colombia, I believe, like, I remember being like a good student, doing well in my classes. But whenever I was in math class, like, everything made sense. I love like the consistency of numbers and how they related to things. Also, like, I was naturally like happy and eager to like help my classmates, like, oh, let me show you how to do this, and it all felt very natural. So I feel that my connection with mathematics started very early on. And then when we moved to the States, I decided that I was going to become a math teacher. And it just makes sense. I think mathematics is beautiful. I think, like, as you said, anytime I've been teaching for 13 years, and anytime I share what I do for a living in almost like any context, you often hear things like, oh, I hated math, or I didn't like math, or like, oh, why did I have to learn math? Like, I never use that. And I honestly believe, like, to my core, that math class has the potential to be every kid's favorite class.
That's amazing. That is awesome. And how long have you been teaching high school?
13 years. So my entire teaching, my license is secondary, but my entire experience has been teaching high school. Then I also, when I finished my first master's, I started teaching at the college level. And currently I have I have a 2-year-old and a 7-year-old. So I'm now, I love teaching my daughter. Mostly the older one, the little one, the 2-year-old doesn't listen to anybody. But my older daughter, like, we enjoy what we call math play. So I started math playing with her. when she was very, very young. We have, like, as you can imagine, we have a basement full of toys and games and sets. So I started like playing with her because the young kids always want to play. So I started like, okay, so let's take all the energy and her willingness to play and connect it with math. So we started doing math play, and it's been fun. And that led into like other things, because she was like very engaged, and I noticed that, oh my God, this is such a great way to teach her mathematics. That I started wondering, okay, like, would it be possible for me to take this and bring it to my classroom?
No, that's all. I mean, we've been on for what, 6 minutes and 32 seconds. I'm so impressed with your passion and your in-depth knowledge. I was listening to something this morning. It was actually a promo for a podcast, and it was so dry, and it felt like I wanted to turn it off. But listening to you, my gosh, if I was a student in your class, I'd be so engaged, so just in depth in what you're talking about. Where does that passion come from?
I like, one of the things I do want, like, I feel like I'm on a mission to like change that, or like to contribute to changing that negative perspective of mathematics. I'd like to mention that I at the high school where I'm teaching now, I thought I'm teaching like what you will consider like an advanced level class, a standard level class, and an essential level class. And like the things that I do and the way I teach, my pedagogy and my strategies are the same, whether I'm teaching like an essential level class for kids that historically don't like math or haven't experienced a lot of success with math, or the students that are at the advanced level that are very comfortable with math. And I've seen sort of like the same results. The students are very engaged. I've heard things like, oh, Mr. Valencia, I don't like math, but this is my favorite class. And I'm like, how does that even work? How could you not like math, but math is your favorite class? And I think part of it is like engaging our students and connecting with them. I believe that I love math playing with my students. But before you can go ahead and math play with your students and let that be an effective strategy, it's important that you connect with your students. In my experience, 13 years, if you're able to connect with your students will run you with your ideas. They got your back, right? So I feel that before we implement any strategy or any technology or any curriculum, the main thing is for us to connect with the students, show them that like we're doing this for them. And then like once they know that, once they see, okay, Mr. Valencia is doing all this craziness to like make it fun, to make it engaging because of us, then they'll know your ideas. And I've experienced that whether I'm teaching like an essential level class, a standard level class, or an advanced level class.
Yeah, and you talk about experiences. This is your first podcast, right? First virtual video or audio.
I was a little nervous. I was, oh my God, like, what am I going to say? Like, it's live. What if I say something wrong? But like, usually that happens. And then once I start talking, as you could tell, like, it goes away. Then I'm,
that doubled down on my feeling bad of like, oh my gosh, I'm running late. And it's his first time. He's probably sitting waiting for me. And you were, which was awesome. So you brought up a couple of times math play. And yes, I know from connecting with you before that you have signed on with Codebreaker and going to be writing a book about it. Tell us about that journey.
So I'm going to be honest, like 3 years ago, I had no social media whatsoever. I thought of social media as a great tool for teachers to get in trouble. I was like, I'm never doing that.
It is a little of that, but yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I was like, I'm never going to do that. Like, this is so silly. Why would somebody say that? And then, so I wanted to like have nothing to do with social media, personal or like professional social media, nothing. So then when I started working at the school at Chappaqua, I noticed that a lot of teachers there, administrators were using it and were connected. And I was like, well, this is interesting. So I started like checking out like different math teachers. And I was like, oh, like this is such a great idea. And you start having mentality like, I'm not in a bubble in my school, in my district, but like, look at this, what these people are doing. So I opened a Twitter account and I started sharing some things. I started following people, started sharing some of the things that I was doing in the classroom that I felt that were, I was experiencing some level of success. And I was like, okay, like this was good. This work. So I started sharing things and connecting with people. I was like trying to find the Libos of other schools. I was like, okay, this is what other people are doing in here.
How'd that work out for you?
It's been amazing. I've made amazing connections. I started like during this like past 3 years. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm a teacher, but I probably read more books in this past 3 years than any other time in my life. Because I've been connecting with people, and it's sort of like your own personal like PD all the time, like 24/7. I got the greatest PD at my fingertips. So I started doing that, and like one thing led to another. At one point, like somebody reached out to me and said, "Oh, you should like start writing a blog." And I was like, well, I don't think of myself much as a writer, but I did, and it went well. And then at some point I presented for the global math department, and I think Brian watched that presentation, and that's after he watched the presentation, he reached out and he was like, oh, like, you know, we connected. He was like, well, you should write a book about math play, and it's been just amazing.
Yeah, and that's Brian Aspinall from Codebreaker, right?
Yes, yes,
And
yes.
so how does it go from creating a blog to being signed to write a book? What was that journey like?
Oh, that is an ongoing journey. Like you know, I just like started writing the book. So it's I do like the blog was very helpful in the sense that it got me to like, okay, like organize my ideas and start
Yeah,
sharing one thing at a time. The book is like an ongoing, like a work in progress. So what I'm finding is that right now I feel like I have so much to share, right? So I'm trying to
I can
organize it
tell.
in. Yeah, I'm trying to like organize it into chapters. I'm trying to organize it into like a little bit of the rationale. I also don't I'm not claiming that, oh, I have this amazing idea that is always going to work. Like the purpose of the book is for me to share like the things that have worked, and hopefully that will serve as like some sort of inspiration. I'm also going to have specific examples, specific tools that I've used in the classroom that I experienced success with. So like that's where I'm at right now. I have like all these ideas that I'm trying to organize into chapters and trying to like provide like specific examples and how things have worked for me, how they have like the power that I've seen that math play could have in students, and how engaging it could be.
No, that's awesome, and just hearing your cadence and how fast that you talk. Is it going to be like a sequel? Is it going to be like I can't keep up? That's amazing, and the amazing editor Daphne Menme at Codebreaker is gonna have a great time with your work. And let me tell you, as someone who's gone through it, I know the positive process. So I'm excited to watch your journey and eventually get your book in your hand, as well as all the teachers out there. So for the teachers out there who are just starting to teach mathematics, what would be some advice you give them?
Oh, probably the best advice that I could give them is don't be afraid to like get feedback from students. I like one thing, like getting feedback from
Yeah,
our
dive into
colleagues is
this. What's
probably
this look
yes,
like? Because it could be
yes.
controversial or it could be, but I want to hear about this because this is important.
So as a new teacher, I feel that like when I was like, you know, back 13 years ago, when I was a new teacher, I felt that, you know, you have to like write your lesson plans, follow the guidelines, don't get in trouble, like fly low, do what you have to do, try to like get, you know, like get through your first year. But as I like during like recent years, especially like during like the pandemic, when we started using like all this technology, started using decimals and GeoGebra to like actually teach our lessons like live and whatnot and asynchronous. I started to like get feedback from students because it was different and new to all of us. So I noticed that the feedback that I get from students is like right on point. Students will say something like, Mr. Valencia, like this was like too long. Like we didn't need this. Or Mr.
And they'll
Valencia,
tell you how it
we
is, right?
exactly. Oh, and with no filter. These are high schoolers, right? So they will say, Mr. Valencia, like this was good, but this was not good. Like this was not like this was silly, or like this feels like too elementary for us. So like then you start using that feedback and tailoring the lessons, and the students will notice that because then on a later lesson when I'm putting that, they will like appreciate it. So they know that I'm not just collecting feedback from them, but I'm using it to guide like the other lessons. So I feel that as a new teacher, I miss out on opportunities to get feedback from my students because your students will tell you, like, Mr. Valencia, like this is good, this works, or this doesn't work, because they like what we're doing as teachers is for them. So we should center them like the conversation, what works best for you. And I would like to share that in one of my classes, this is like an essential level class. A student shared early in the year, like, Mr. Valencia, I hate math. I don't like math. Da, da, da. But I knew that student plays soccer. So I was like, okay, they play soccer. So I brought a couple of applications, right, of like soccer applications into like our geometry class when we were doing like points, lines, and planes. And like the student knew that it was like for her, right? That, okay, like this is for you. And of course they acted like nothing had happened. Like, okay, like that's cool. But like that student is always there. It's always on time.
Right.
It's always participating. It's always willing to like try, because they know that Mr. Valencia is doing something for them. Like, I'm not just like teaching. Like, the students have to know, and they have to see that they're more important than the content we teach. Like, I'm passionate about math. Like, I think you could tell.
You are?
But like,
I couldn't tell.
but it has to be centered on our student, what works for them and what they're interested in. Like, once you have those pieces together, then everything else will run smoothly. Like, the students will like see that, okay, Mr. Valencia is doing this to connect with us. And if you're able to have that connection with students, like almost like any strategy that you use is going to be effective because the students will run with it.
No, that is great, and it's awesome to hear you talk about math and about, obviously I have a strong, feeling about the power of connections. How you shared about how you're connecting with individuals, and I'm going to lead this into our last question. And I ask all of our guests because it's something important to me and something that I've grown with the collaboration. And when I say to you, what does stronger together mean? What does that mean to you?
So to me, I probably as many educators, I feel that knowledge is meant to be shared. Like, if I know something, it shouldn't, like, if I know something, I keep it to myself, it's like meaningless, right? Like, no one's going to benefit from it. So like I feel that the knowledge is meant to be shared. So like, if I'm doing something as a classroom teacher that is working, that I'm experiencing success with, like, it makes perfect sense to share with other people, because then like, it's not only my students who could potentially benefit from it, but once I share it, like, other people can like pick it up and tweak it. And I'm not saying that, oh, you should do what I'm doing because like, I know, like, I'm the owner of the truth or something, but like, that idea that I'm doing, right, could help inspire somebody else, or they could tweak that idea and make it work for them. And if you know your students and you're able to connect with them, you know what works best for them. So I really do believe that knowledge is meant to be shared. And once we do that, I'm going to benefit from it, because then like, people can take that idea and do something else with it that I didn't consider. And I could go back and say, oh, well, I didn't think of that, or I can use this in like a different class. So I feel that by us sharing like what we're doing, what's working, what's not working, we are becoming like stronger together. And like in a way, it's also contributing to like helping change that negative perception of mathematics that most people have, and like making that shift into like math could be everyone's favorite class.
Wow, knowledge is meant to be shared. That is a quote that I'm going to be using over and over again. Obviously, giving you credit because it's the first place I heard it, but that is a powerful statement. And I think knowing you're coming on to a very collaborative team with Codebreaker, that is the mentality that we're sharing ideas, and I'm thrilled to hear that from you. So we made it. It's minute 20. You made it through your first podcast. How do you feel? You need to take a breath? You need to like towel off? Like what do you got going? You feeling good?
It didn't feel like 20 minutes. It felt like we only talked like for 2 minutes, but it's okay.
Yeah.
I see the timer.
Yeah. So how you feel? One down.
One down. There you go. One down. I'm definitely coming back, but yeah, one down.
Okay. I like that. And we'll see you on all the circuits and chatting, because your passion is infectious. And I can't wait to read the work and see your journey and collaborate on all the great things that you have coming your way. So thank you so much for coming on today. And thank you for all of you who are listening. Thank you to our sponsors. And we look forward to continuing to be stronger together, because that's what it's all about. As we just heard, knowledge is meant to be shared, and we need to put we before me.
There you go.